Hi there, it's me, Ribbit. I'm sure you've seen a lot of other people on this channel make potential movesets for the upcoming crossover fighting game, MultiVersus, a Warner Brothers platform fighter. Now, there are a lot of characters who could be in this game via technicality. For example, my very good friend Larry Winwood talked about the boomstick. So, who have I decided to go with? Well, you already know, you read the title. Keep your hands off Eizouken, one of my favourite pieces of media ever. It's my second favourite anime of all time. As a person whose main passion in life basically is animation, this series means a lot to me. So when I remembered that this anime was brought to you by Warner Brothers, I knew what I had to do. With that said, this won't be easy. The series is slice of life, and because of that, the main trio don't do much in the way of combat. Or maybe they do. You see, the main plot of Eizouken is that the main three make animations, of course. And sometimes they go inside of these animated worlds and basically live through them. So I propose that these three utilize these tools in combat. But one big question still stands. There are three of them. You can't have all three running around simultaneously. I think Ice Climbers is about as far as you can take a concept like that, but I think I found a good compromise. You will be playing as Midori Asakusa, the protagonist of the series. I'm sure you can tell just from her design that she would be a light and quick character, scurrying around like the little creature she is. But in that backpack of hers, cartoonishly hides her friends, who will quickly pop out and help her. A little bit like Kazooie. Might sound a little overly cartoony for an anime, but Eizouken is actually very cartoony, and we're leaning into their imagination versions here. If they can survive huge explosions and fly hovercrafts in there, two people fitting into a backpack isn't too crazy. For her quick jab, Tsubame will quickly pop out with a machete and swipe in front of her, while for her stronger side, Kanamori will slam forward like she did when she smashed through that wall. However, she starts out the charge turning into a space shuttle, and then will become human again when she reaches her target, like she does in the original scene. So her two most basic attacks would include her friends, but the rest of her moveset will be mostly based around her animation skills. From a standstill, her long-ranged attack would be a laser gun emerging from the ground. This gun spins around for a while before it can be used, leaving you open for a bit. However, as the trade-off, as is the case in the show, the laser it shoots is invisible, making the only way you can see it coming keeping an eye on Asakusa herself. In the air, Asakusa will be able to recover using her helicopter belt, which would launch her upwards, similar to Inkling's recovery or something. For aerial combat, she would have a chargeable attack where she blasts forward in a robotic shell, which forms around her. If not built up for long enough though, Asakusa will fall right down and only take 1 point of damage when she hits the floor, in reference to the scene where she falls from the second floor of the workshop. Now you might be thinking, that sounds really intrusive, why would you ever use this move? Well, if you successfully pull it off for about 7 seconds, you will stay as the robot and have much stronger attacks. Of course, it only lasts for a bit because that's a bit broken. Now, I have no idea what they're calling smash attacks in this game, or if they're even there, but if she does have one, she can have a 4-directional smash attack-esque move with her arm cannon from the outro. As for the teamwork idea, it was pretty hard to think one up. I had the idea that Kanamori would get out and yell at Asakusa, causing her to melt into the floor. You or your teammate can hide in there, and jab up anytime you want. You can stay in there for about 15 seconds. The other idea I had was Asakusa having the ability to draw something into the environment, and you and your teammate being able to utilize it. This could be like her camera tank, maybe? Or heck, even just a camera, allowing her to blind foes. I also had the idea that Asakusa would be able to draw armor on her teammate, increasing their defenses. While this is very handy, it takes a bit, and the drawback is that Asakusa can't really do it to herself. There are other attacks, but I think I want to keep things pretty simple beyond all of this. I've already got a pretty hefty and complicated gimmick here, so just assume that the other attacks would be similar to the pre-existing ones, like Tsubame's machete being the general jab of the character. If we really want to make every attack unique though, I feel like Kanamori could also just punch people, honestly. She does that a lot. I guess one last little idea for Tsubame. She never does one in the show, but she reportedly tries to do them every night before she goes to bed. Yeah, I'm just spitballing here, but Tsubame could possibly do a Hadouken. I mean, it'd be a pretty funny reference. Yeah, I'll be honest, you can probably tell by this point, but I'm not super big into the technicals of fighters. I don't know if this would be a good character. For all I know, I have just developed the most clunky character ever, or someone who would get banned from tournaments immediately. But I think it sounds fun, and they are getting into the game anyway, so hey, I'm just going all out. Not all of this would be possible on one fighter, very much spitballing with a lot of this. I just have a lot of ideas for these characters, and I really do think they have a lot of potential. So, that's what I have for the moveset, but I still have a lot of ideas for the animations and non-combat centered things. Okay, so how does she enter? I think it would be cool if she flew in on her dragonfly plane from episode 1. I feel like that needs to be here somewhere. When you do a slow walk, she could pull out a stick and a flashlight, and walk like she does with her anti-poltergeist loadout. I also want all the hit animations or general expressions to be very Eizoukens. She lands a successful combo and you see her dumb goblin grin. You see her face of sheer terror whenever she recovers. She has to have the big old circle eyes in a lot of her animations. In particular, I think her damage animations wouldn't be complete without them. I would also love it if she brought her head down into her collar like she does here whenever she crouches. For her taunts, she could have one with Tsubame and one with Kanamori. For Tsubame, they have to do the Tanuki dance, there's no other way. For Kanamori, it's a little trickier. They have a few moments together that would work. Maybe a large fist comes out of the backpack and just bonks Eizoukens on the head, or more iconically a headlock. Kanamori does that all the time. I could also see Eizoukens finding a note on the ground and Kanamori quickly popping out of the backpack and taking it. Now for one with just Eizoukens. She hugs a little bunny plushie. How could I not include that? Perhaps have her wrap herself up in a blanket like she does a lot while hugging it. And I guess if we're going all the way and assuming all 4 directional buttons do a different taunt, then have her fall backwards onto the beanbag like she does here. Arguably the most iconic shot from the show. Now you might have realised I've neglected the most iconic aspect of the series, the poses from the opening. Well, those would be reserved for the victory screen, where all 3 would stand in a row and strike their iconic poses. Alternate costumes. Eizoukens fortunately has a ton of options. She could wear the clothes she wore while piloting the dragonfly plane, the army gear she wore while she was handing out flyers, her street clothes, her astronaut gear, or heck, you could even colour her like in the opening, or even colour her like the manga, a la Nickel, Star Brawl's TMNT costumes. But if you have to have just one, personally I would go with Tanuki Midori. I mean, when it came time to make the only plush of any of these characters, it was her as a Tanuki. It's only right. There are a few options. Their cityscape, the one they made up. Sketchy in nature but filled with wonderful architecture and all kinds of cool vehicles. There's also their studio, which could have 2 levels and be enclosed, more like the Punch-Out stage I suppose. And then there's their town, which might sound boring, but in the final episode the world that these 3 create kind of fuse into this town, with all kinds of architecture spawning from the ground. And I think that about wraps it up, honestly. I love this series so much, and I really do implore you, if you like animation and want to see a wonderfully put together animated series exploring the intricacies of the medium and the struggles that come with it in fun and inventive ways, give this series a shot. It's genuinely fantastic. And I think these 3 would make for a fighter just as fantastic if they made it into the game. Sadly, the hard part is actually getting them in. My job, comparatively, was easy breezy. これが最強の世界。